Hey everybody, it's Mr. Carr again. Today we're going to be talking about 1B, multiplying and dividing fractions. Okay, so quickly we'll do this ignite. Same as always, I'm going to just go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try these out and then I'll just show you the final answers before we move on. Okay, and I'm going to pause the video right about now. Okay, there it is. There's your work. I want to highlight one. Well, let's just talk about these real fast. 4 and 15, that's the result of 4 times 15, 15 times 4. We get 60 for our least common multiple. Greatest common factor of 40 and 12, I've listed them all out, like 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8. When I put them in this order, I see that 4 and 4 are going to match up as our greatest common factor. Over here for my adding these fractions, my least common denominator was going to be 24 for both cases. So once I transformed those, I was able to add them together. One thing I didn't talk about before is a good thing to check for. Can I reduce my fractions? 34 and 24 are both even numbers, which means they're both divisible by 2. So I did that. I ended up with a lower fraction that's 17 over 12. So since we left off the last lesson with adding, subtracting fractions, today, let's talk about multiplying, dividing. All right, multiplying and dividing can be pretty straightforward, but it might probably, in my opinion, a little bit easier than adding, subtracting. Okay, the main reason for that is we can just, for example, here for number 1, multiply across the numerator. So 1 times 3 is going to give me 3. Then multiply across the denominator. 2 times 4 is 8. That's it. Just multiply across. Okay. For number 2, we do the same exact thing. So I got 1 times 3 here. I've got 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 9 is 27. And I got a negative sign out front still. I'm not changing that negative there. Do you want to do a quick check? 3 and 27, both divisible by 3. Okay, so I can do that. That turns into a negative 1 over 9. Okay, there's a shortcut for that. And I don't have to multiply and then reduce our fractions. I'm going to talk about that for number 4. Let's do number 3 first. So we got 4 times 2. That's going to give me 8. 5 times 5 is going to be 25. And then I got a negative sign out front. So negative 8 over 25. Okay, number 4. When multiplying a fraction by a whole number, we're going to want to do this. I'm going to rewrite it. I can rewrite my whole number as a fraction still as 8 over 1. Okay, so this one, I can go ahead and multiply through if I wanted to. But I'm going to look for some shortcuts. The first shortcut I'm going to take is, if I look at 4 and 6, I can divide both of those by 2. So that turns into a 2, and that turns into a 3. Okay, those are smaller numbers to work with. So now that I have that, I got 2 times 8 in the numerator. That's 16. 3 times 1 is 3. I don't have to reduce my fraction now. I reduced first before I did my multiplication. Personally, I like to do it that way. I didn't have to do that one either because I could have done this as a second option. Now, let's say if I have 4 over 6, 8 over 1. Okay, if I have 6 and 8, I look at those two numbers. I can actually reduce those if I wanted to. Both of those are divisible by 2. So I get 3 here and 4 here. So I divided by 2 for both of them. So if I look at that, now I have 4 times 4 is 16, and 3 times 1 is 3. Hey, same number. I like it when it works out that way. It's really nice. All right. The other thing we're going to do today is dividing fractions. And they're super hard when you compare to multiplying because you have to do this whole extra step. And that extra step is to do this. Dividing fractions is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. And if you remember what reciprocal means, that means that I'm going to take a fraction. Like if I take a fraction a over b, I'm going to just flip it over to b over a. That's it. So if I, instead of doing 1/2 divided by 3/4, I'm going to instead take 1/2 times 4/3. And again, I could multiply through 1 times 4 and 2 times 3, but I'm going to look this way. I can divide that by 2 and divide that by 2 as well. So both 4 and 2 are divisible by 2. They have a greatest common factor of 2. So now I have 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. There's my reduced fraction. Over here, negative 1/3. Instead of dividing by 3/9, I'm going to multiply by 9/3. I'm going to simplify this a little bit. So I've got 9 over 3. So that turns into 3 and 1. Okay. Both of those are divisible by 3. After that, I actually have a 3 and a 3 here. So I have those threes are going to cancel out to a 1 and a 1. So in the end, I get -1/1, which is just -1. Okay. Number 7, I'm going to do -4/5 multiplied by the reciprocal 5/2. From there, again, I like to reduce before I multiply. It makes things a lot easier. I don't have to simplify the fractions at the end. So I'm going to look here. I've got 4 and 2 are both divisible by 2. Whoops. So I'm going to take 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 5 and 5 are going to go to 1 and 1. So across the numerator, I've got 2. Across the denominator, I've got 1. I still have that negative sign. So I have a final answer there of -2. Okay. 4/6 divided by 8. So remember, this 8 is the same as 8/1. So I'm going to turn that into multiplication of 1/8. And then I can start looking at how can I simplify before I multiply. By the way, that sounds, that's nice. Let's simplify before we multiply. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Then I'm just going to have 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 2 is 12. And that's it. That's the only skill we're going to cover today, multiplying and dividing. Okay. So kind of two methods. You could just always, if you have a multiplication problem, you just multiply right across the numerator, right across the denominator. Do you do that? Just do a quick check. Can you reduce the fraction? Like, are there any common factors that you can divide out of both of them, both the numerator and the denominator? Or as a slightly different strategy, we have our multiplication problem. We can reduce first. We can't cancel out those common factors like this. So 4 and 6 were divisible by 2. So I made those into smaller numbers, and then I still multiplied 2 times 8 is 16, 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, but I can reduce vertically. I can also reduce diagonally. So 8 and 6 can be reduced as well. So 8 and 6 are divisible by 2. So I get 8 divided by 2 is 4, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then I'm still multiplying the numerators to 16, multiply the denominators to 3. Okay, division is just one extra step. Flip that second problem, or flip that second fraction to the reciprocal. Okay, all right. And that is it for 1B. Go ahead and try out some of those you try now problems. Give it your best shot, and we'll talk about it next time we're in class. All right. That's it for me. Or yeah, that's all I have for today. So take care, everybody.